Welcome to Season 3, Episode 1, Dress to Impress. Fashion is a funny old thing, constantly evolving, circling back on itself, contradicting what came before. Throughout history and around the globe, fashion has played a central role in society. People have become famous because of it, even bankrupted themselves in the pursuit of it. Some think it frivolous, unimportant, shallow even. But in the same breath, it has the power to create a celebrity or ruin a reputation. In the Georgian period, we see constant evolution, silhouettes changing, headwear getting taller, pantaloons replacing breeches as the legwear of choice. But it wasn't just about looking good. The visual nature of fashion meant that clothes could also be political and an indicator of what was going on in the wider world. In this episode, we'll put a sensory spin on some of the most fun and outrageous trends of 18th century England.
Laura, I think it's fair to say that this season is a little bit of a break from the norm for us.
Yes, we're definitely not in ancient Greece anymore, Toto. But the Georgians is a fascinating era and one that I really wanted to explore.
Well, who am I then to ignore the demands of my elder sister? But rest assured, listeners, we have not abandoned our classical roots.
Goodness me, absolutely not.
For now, however, the Georgians.
Okay, so as per our usual approach, we'll be looking at source material, original source material. Each of us will choose 2 sources and we will talk about them from a sensory perspective. Our sources today are an article from the Bath Chronicle, a print by Thomas Rowlandson, who is an artist and caricaturist. We've got a portrait of the Princess Sophia, who was a daughter of George III and Queen Charlotte. And finally, we've got an extract from The Sylph, which is a novel written by Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire. As you'll have noticed, we've got several visual sources today, so we'll include those on our social media and on our website so that you can follow along. Would you like to go first?
This is an article from the Bath Chronicle, dated the 31st of May, 1773. A correspondent remarks that the more general umbrellas are, the more awkward they appear. To see a parcel of gentlemen running against each other in the narrow passes and every corner they turn, for fear of a shower of rain, is truly ridiculous, saving themselves only in part. For if umbrella would secure the feet and leg, the most material part to be kept dry, they would be of some use. But in these days, to see Englishmen import every foreign, effeminate custom is proof we are dwindling into soup meagre itself. The gentlemen of the faculty are certainly called upon on short notice, but for those there is no excuse when a useful hat and long cloak or coat answer a better purpose, are as easy thrown off, and look much more respectable.
Wow, he does not like umbrellas.
And especially men carrying umbrellas.
Yes, so they're foreign and effeminate.
There's a lot to unpick, let's be honest.
It really is, yeah.
The first thing, we didn't say this at the beginning, but the Bath Chronicle is a newspaper. This is a story being run in the newspaper about how men shouldn't carry umbrellas.
Slow news day.
It really must have been. Can you guess the sense that I want to think about here, Laura?
Hedging my bets here. Sight or taste from a sort of stylistic perspective?
That's exactly what I'm going with. So a few things to think about in terms of taste with this extract. Firstly, from that general good taste in terms of fashion, it's clear that umbrellas for men is a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
There are some exceptions, though. He did say that members of the faculty, so that's doctors.
Who are they?
The reporter mentions that doctors are called upon at short notice, so they can grab an umbrella and run.
So from a practical perspective, he's happy with them, sort of.
Sort of. Members of the clergy might also have an umbrella held over them at graveside if they're burying someone.
Okay.
That is also allowed. Umbrellas are clearly, at this time, in 1773, not very well thought of. Umbrellas weighed about £10.
What does a modern umbrella weigh?
Maybe £1 at the most. I mean, think about it. When I was born, I was £10 four.
You were large, yeah.
So
Oh
imagine.
my goodness, carrying you every time it rained.
Exactly. And that's in around 1800.
So where's that coming from? The fabric or the...
Everything combined to make that ridiculous weight. The origin of the word umbrella is from ombre in the French, meaning shade. So primarily it was for shading yourself from the sun, parasol style. So it has that connection with ladies wanting to shade themselves. As we can see from this article, linked with the effeminacy is the French connection, not the shop.
Yes.
So umbrellas are seen as effeminate and French, but to be fair, the French are seen as effeminate. So those kind of, which came first, the Frenchman or the
umbrella?
There are lots of cartoons of men in the newspapers playing to this theme, holding colourful, girly, in inverted commas, sun parasols, looking or made to look ridiculous. Jonas Hanway is a gentleman who is attributed with being the first Englishman to use an umbrella.
How do we definitely know that it was him?
Because it was reported in the newspapers. This was in the 1750s. He was hated by cab drivers and sedan chair workers.
Why?
Because they thought that he would put them out of business with his stupid umbrella.
There's one umbrella.
They thought that it might catch on.
And
that he would put them out of business because people wouldn't need to take a cab in the rain anymore. They could just whip out a £10 umbrella.
That's true, yeah. Unless they wanted to keep their trousers and shoes clean, in which case the sedan chair still wins.
It's funny you should say that, because when I read the article, I thought to myself, do you know what? He's got a point. Umbrellas are quite cumbersome. I know they don't weigh £10 anymore, but seeing 100 of them jostling on the pavement for space, and then really you do get to the office and your legs and feet are still soaking wet. So they haven't really achieved a purpose apart from to keep your hair a bit dry.
So they were specifically associated with the French, were they, because of the name, because of the etymology of the name?
No, it was more that they were effeminate and therefore they were linked to the French.
Ah, okay. So there was a sort of assumption link there.
In fairness, though, men in France did start using the umbrella long before men in England started using the umbrella.
Okay, so there was a link.
It's just another reason to hate the French, let's be honest. It's really clutching at straws. What about umbrellas? Yeah. One other thing mentioned in that extract in terms of taste, soup meagre.
Oh, yes, I didn't know what that referred to.
So soup meagre or soup maigre, I think it would be called in French, is a very thin, brothy type soup. Your favourite, Laura?
Oh, I'm not one for broth.
Very thin, without meat, so it's used on Lent quite.
Oh, okay, when you're being abstemious.
When you're being abstemious. So think quite filling, but also a little bit weak and watery.
I would have thought not filling at all.
Maybe nutritionally filling. Unfortunately, for the French at least, this was used in satirical imagery. Quite often you get the Englishman eating his beef with his bulldog by his feet. And then on the flip side, you've got a very thin Frenchman with a fluffy poodle by his feet eating his soup.
Holding his umbrella.
It's all very silly, but I mean, the world is silly, isn't it?
It's very xenophobically charged, isn't it?
Yes, well, I guess there was a war on.
True.
One fun fact for you about Jonas Hanway, Laura.
The first man to use an umbrella?
The slang word for umbrella for quite some time was a Hanway.
That's a good claim to fame.
So there were lots of prints of poor old Jonas.
Were there?
One of him. He was ridiculed for it.
So unenlightened.
He's just using an umbrella. I mean, really, get over it, guys.
It just goes to show that what we said in the introduction is correct. Reputations can be ruined. Okay, shall we move on to my first source?
Yes, please. Who have we got?
So this is a print by artist and caricaturist Thomas Rowlandson. And the print is called, beautifully, The Bum Shop.
I wasn't expecting you to say that, Laura.
The Bum Shop.
Do go on. What am I buying at the bum shop?
You are buying fake bums.
Several?
It depends
Oh.
what your personal needs are. But at this shop, you would purchase fake bottoms.
Goodness me. Okay.
So, listeners, you can see we've provided a black and white version of this print, but also a coloured version. Take your pick, but they've both got the same content in there. This print is a scene in a ladies' shop, and these ladies are in there browsing for false bottoms and also trying on these false bottoms and hips as well. So it wasn't just false bottoms, it was around the hips as well that these appendages would be attached. We might call them bustles in today's terminology, so that might be familiar, but actually that's not a term that the Georgians would have used. That came in a fair bit later.
What would they have called these items then?
Well, I've seen them referred to as cork rumps. And in the wording at the bottom of the print, they're referred to as dried bums.
Oh, that just sounds horrible.
You know, and also the text refers to the shop owner, who is called Derriere.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. And the text goes on to say that Derriere is supplying dried bums to ladies who nature has neglected to provide with certain lovely endowments, this necessary appendage of female excellence.
Wow. Okay, so it ties their bottoms to being excellent. If you want to be excellent, then you need a lovely bottom.
Well, yes. So by the late 1700s, the fashion was for a voluptuous figure, bust, and an exaggerated rear end, which is where the cork rumps or dried bums come in.
What sense are we thinking about here, Laura? It must be sight.
No.
Touch.
Yes.
Ah, okay, so we're touching bottoms.
Well, I'll go on to that, but I'll just describe a little bit of what's going on in the print. Left and right, you can see various ladies have tried things on or are trying things on. The ladies are looking in mirrors. We've got Monsieur Derriere at the front there, who is with a particularly lean lady. So she's not found what she's looking for yet. But if you look on the left-hand side, there's a lady in white in a hat heading out of the door. So you've got the sort of before and after. At the back, you can see there's various wares displayed on the wall.
So there's a wall full of bottoms.
Yes, I was being polite there, but you've called it. Some are smaller than others. Some go all the way round the waist. And then some are just going to produce a little bustle on the back of your bottom. So they might widen your hips.
I think that would be called thick in today's terminology, Laura.
Perhaps it would, yeah. But it is akin to what people do seek today with plastic surgery. So Brazilian bum lifts, boob jobs. This is all about creating curves and a more voluptuous silhouette. And this is what these ladies were trying to pursue.
With their dried bottoms.
With their dried bottoms.
What were the dried bottoms made out of, Laura?
A great question. Often they're made out of pads or cushions. And if we think about the touch aspect, that could be quite comfy. So imagine maybe you're at court or you're at a ball, all the chairs are gone. Nip over to the nearest wall, just lean back. You've got yourself an instant chair.
Love that. That sounds like my kind of outfit, Laura.
Yeah, definitely. So there is a comfort aspect to some of them, but also they might not be quite so comfy because you could also get arrangements that were more made of springs.
Oh, goodness me, no.
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether there was an evolution, as in it started with one and moved on to the other, or whether it was just depending on your requirements or the particular silhouette you were aiming for.
That could be very bad if one of those springs goes at an inopportune moment.
Later on, actually, they did devise things that were collapsible. They gave you the volume, but then when you sat down, they sort of collapsed with you, didn't break, but then allowed you to stand up and then they'd reshape again.
That's really clever.
Very versatile. Apart from the comfort aspect, I thought there's probably a warmth aspect as well. So in the winter, the colder months, this is going to be quite a welcome addition to your wardrobe. Not so much in the summer.
Yeah, very sweaty. I want to think about Mr. Derriere. So he'll be touching you during the fitting process, I presume.
He'll need to, because he'll need to take measurements.
Was there an official name apart from the bum shop for these shops? Was it a specific shop or was it a section? Was it the bum shop department?
Gloves on one side and then bottoms on the other. Possibly. I'm hoping yes. You mentioned earlier about touching your bottoms. Imagine if you're in a ball situation, maybe your affianced is there or someone that you particularly got your eye on. I think these sorts of appendages are going to make it very difficult for you to get frisky.
Oh, like a chastity belt.
Yes, like a Georgian version of a chastity belt, because access is going to be difficult, isn't it?
There's some layers to get through, isn't there? And
Yeah.
then with
Springs. I mean, if you're expecting cushions and you've got springs, there's all sorts of hazards.
if you're expecting bum and you get springs, I mean, that's not fun for anyone.
Yeah. This is not a quick fumble, is it? This is 20 minutes later, you're still trying to get under the springs or the pad or something. So, really, it is a very good deterrent for any sort of wandering hands at balls.
I like it, Laura. For society ladies, at least, I can see why that would be a benefit.
Yeah, because being caught in a compromising position could really affect your standing, couldn't it, in society? It could mean you're damaged goods if there were assumptions made about your purity. So anything that can guard against that sort of thing is a tick.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, they really do think of everything, the Georgians. Yeah. Yeah. Laura, I love it. I love it.
Great. I'm glad, I've broadened your horizons.
My second source, Laura, is a beautiful little portrait of Princess Sophia. As you very nicely introduced her, she is the fifth daughter and 12th child, might I add, of George III and Queen Charlotte. Poor Charlotte.
Mm.
But Sophia was about 20 when she sat for this portrait. It's attributed to an artist called Henry Edridge. She's wearing a beautiful white high-necked dress. She's got beautiful little curls tumbling over her forehead there. She's wearing a necklace. But most importantly, she is wearing a pair of glasses. Spectacles, some would say.
Yes.
This is a very, very small portrait. It's about 8 centimetres by 10 centimetres in pencil, a little bit of watercolour as well. A very subtle portrait, more a private portrait.
Yeah, it's not particularly grandiose, is it? It's quite simple.
It's simple and it's tiny.
Mm.
But back to the glasses. Let's think about sight. Sophia had bad sight her entire life. She actually went blind when she was older.
Oh.
Yeah, she really did suffer from it. I think she was incredibly short-sighted. There are quite a few portraits of her with a quizzing glass. If you don't know, a quizzing glass is a single round piece of glass on a handle that you could hold up to one eye and inspect things with, a bit like a portable magnifying glass.
Oh, okay. So not a monocle. So it's not on a chain. It's something you'd pick up and
You'd pick up,
yeah.
But it would be on a chain round your neck.
Oh, okay.
You might wear it like a necklace style, but it's not a monocle. You don't, so a monocle, you wedge it in. This you just hold up to your eye.
When you need it. Okay.
It became so fashionable as a fashion accessory that people who didn't need them started using them. And there were doctors who would warn against this, saying, you're just going to hurt your eyes. But this portrait is quite unique in that it shows the young princess actually wearing a pair of glasses on her face. These types of glasses typically had metal frames with straight arms, so the arms didn't loop round the back of the ears.
Oh, okay. That must have been a bit difficult to keep them on.
Well, there were 3 real designs for glasses. You either got ones that were just so tight to your head that they wedged on and stayed there. Then there were some with little loops at the end of the arms that you could tie a ribbon through, tie the ribbon on the back of your head, so it keeps the glasses on that way. Or there were ones with the arms that went straight back and then they bend round the back of your head, and then you could wedge those bends into your hair. Either way, though, headache inducing because it's very much gripping your head.
The pressure pain.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever put your ponytail far too tight one day, given yourself a Croydon facelift.
I have, yeah.
That can really hurt by the end of the day, pulling all that tension. Or actually, just wearing glasses, you're kind of micro-straining your face the entire time trying to keep them on. Like I said at the top, glasses are really, really uncommon in portraiture. Now, this might be due to vanity. Maybe people didn't want to be seen wearing their glasses. There was an association of glasses with being older.
And they probably weren't very common generally, were they?
They actually weren't uncommon. The technology did exist, so you could grind glass to a person's specific needs by matching their weak eyes to the focal length of the glass. So definitely opticians, in inverted commas, did exist.
I did not know that.
There were several types of thing that you could have. You could have the quizzing glass. You could have the lorgnette.
Oh, yes. So it's like a small pair of glasses on a stick.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So you fold them out and then again, it's on a stick when needed, but they're not constantly on your face.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the pince-nez was popular. So think Poirot.
Yes. So more of a balancing act required there.
They are more commonly seen in paintings and portraiture. I guess also for eyeglasses or spectacles, maybe the point of portraiture is to see someone's eyes, and wearing glasses is counterproductive to that.
That's true.
Actually, if we talk about the Bath Chronicle again, my favourite newspaper.
Yeah.
There was a man in the death section, John Isles. Do you know him?
No.
Well, he's long dead now.
Poor
He
John.
actually died at 103. In his obituary, one of the things mentioned about him was that he could read the smallest print without spectacles.
I like that that was mentioned as a highlight.
Yeah, it's either that or he didn't really achieve much else, is it? So there you go, Laura. We've got sight with poor Princess Sophia and her wonderful but perhaps uncomfortable glasses.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I've got our final source of the episode, which is an extract from a novel written by Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire.
Oh, she was quite the one, wasn't she?
She was, as we will find out. The novel is about a young lady who's married a wealthy aristocrat, and really we just see her making her way in society and navigating it. So quite a lot of parallels with Georgiana herself. She married very young. She became Duchess at, I think, maybe 17. Her husband was a lot older. The novel is called The Sylph, and this extract is taken from letter 13. I had sat some time, leaning my head on my hand, when some of the superfluous ornaments of my headdress, coming rather too near the candle, caught fire, and the whole farrago of ribbons and lace were instantly in flames. I shrieked out in the utmost terror, and should have perhaps been burnt to death, had not the Baron had the presence of mind to roll my head, flames and all, up in my shawl, which fortunately hung on the back of my chair. How ridiculous are the fashions which render us liable to such accidents.
Oh my God.
Right? Her head caught fire and various ornaments atop it. And this was not the only instance of hair catching on fire. It happened quite a lot.
It made her sound like a Christmas tree. Lots of ornaments.
Yes. The sorts of things that especially Georgiana put in her hair were quite incredible. And she was quite the fashion leader. Hair got very big, very, very big in the second half of the 18th century. And Georgiana was very much at the forefront of this. She became Duchess when she was very young. She was vivacious and fun-loving, loved fashion, and she soon became a fashion icon. And some of the stuff that she put in her hair was just crazy. A rustic scene involving miniature sheep figurines.
Right.
Nautical scene with ships and sailors bobbing around. Enormous feathers. That sounds a bit more standard, doesn't it? They were really common. But women were soon copying these things. So hair and the ornaments would just get bigger and bigger. Feathers, lace, ribbons, wax figurines, fruit, flowers. And similar to the bums, the dried bums, these hair pieces often needed a bit of structure. So there'd be pads in there and little cushions that were called puffs, metal rods and pins as well. And in fact, I came across an article from the Morning Chronicle, and someone's hairpiece caught fire in a lightning storm because the rods in there were conducting the electricity.
Stop it. What were they doing out in a lightning storm with ridiculously tall hair?
Anyway,
They needed a sedan chair ASAP.
Well, that actually is a nice segue into one of the quite challenging logistical aspects of this hair fashion. So the height of these headdresses could get up to 2 feet. And things got so ridiculous that ladies might have to sit on the floor of their carriages when they were going to balls because feathers would get squashed to allow for their voluminous headdresses. Ballrooms even started to provide dressing rooms so that people could attach feathers when they arrived. I read of some scenarios where people would hold their headdresses out of their carriage window.
Oh, well, that's dangerous.
I know. So we've got a lot of height going on, a lot of visuals I've talked about. Can you guess what sense that we're going to talk about here?
Is it not sight?
No.
What are we thinking?
Smell.
Oh, God, was it stinky hair?
It was very stinky hair.
It was stink hair.
Yeah. So far, I've talked about the visuals, right? How things looked, how tall they were. But these creations were so elaborate and time consuming to produce that you didn't want to be doing it every night before you went out to another ball. These things would be built to last weeks.
Question.
Mm.
Was it your own hair or was it somebody else's hair?
It could be your own hair, but you could be supplementing it with the hair of other things. So horsehair, for example.
Well, that's stinky.
Yeah, but it's long, isn't it?
Yeah, that
The
is
tail of a horse. Other things that went into creating these structures were in and of themselves quite smelly. Hemp, animal fat, pork lard,
No.
highly flammable. So you've got all of these materials, shall we say, that are being used to fashion a robust structure. If you've got fruit and flowers, they're not going to last weeks, are they? I'm hoping they're going to take out the rotting oranges.
This just sounds like if you're at a garden party, you're going to be covered in swarms of flies.
Well, yes. So lice were a problem. Yeah. And in fact, people would have scratch sticks so that they could poke them in the hair and give it a bit of a scratch. So you've got 2 or 3 weeks potentially of this hair structure. Maybe you're replacing the flowers and the fruit, fine. But the things like the hemp and the horsehair, the pork lard that are keeping that hair together and up, they're going to go a bit rancid, probably really quickly. And it's not going to be hygienic. No, when you get into week 3, it's just going to be awful.
Week 3, I just think don't bother going out.
No, I did come across a recipe for a pomade, which included mutton fat, pig's lard, lemon, clove oil. So it's got a bit of a Sunday roast vibe going on there.
So the lemon and the clove is clearly there to cover up the smell of the lard.
Yes. And also, clove oil was used as a flea and a tick repellent. They did try and perfume it. You're going to walk around smelling like a bacon sandwich unless you do some things. So they used perfumes, they used powders, they did what they could to try and mask the smell. And of course, you couldn't wash it because that would compromise the structure. So really, you just had to wait this out.
This genuinely sounds like my idea of hell. It must also have been very hot having lard caked on your head all the time. So
Yes.
then you're sweating on top of that. You're covered in lice. You've
Yeah.
got a swarm of flies following you around because you're half bacon by this point. I don't really understand why anyone would want to come near you.
No, it doesn't sound particularly enticing, does it? If it's not alluring in any way, if you're basically sweating meat juices. I think what we're saying is the aroma maintenance must have been very difficult. And also keeping the vermin away,
Living in people's hair.
living in people's hair.
No, I'm out.
If you've got a fake bum as well.
The mind literally boggles. So you've got mice in your bum, you've got mice in your hair. How do you bag a man?
I know, it sounds very counterintuitive, doesn't it?
When we think about these outfits and some of the pictures actually that we're going to include on the website of these hair pieces.
Yes, we've got some great pictures to share with you.
You think about the visuals, you do not think about the stinks.
No, because they look so impressive, don't they? So regal. And in fact, in Bridgerton season 3, there is a scene with Queen Charlotte and she has rotating glass swans in her hair.
Well, fantastic. But now when we watch that, we're just going to be thinking that she was a big stinkhead.
What else is in there? How many mice? But on a serious note, would you like a quiz?
I do love a quiz, as you know, and I've got my hair done. I'm a bit stinky and my bum's got a mouse in it, but let's do this.
In today's quiz, there are 5 points up for grabs, Caroline. Question 1. A large bustle, or dried bum, might indicate high status.
You do understand that's not a question?
True or false?
True.
Correct. 1 point. Question 2. Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire, once found a small dormouse in a headdress she'd been wearing for the past 9 days. True or false?
True.
False.
Oh, bums.
Tricked you there. Question 3. The Prince of Wales, later George IV, once attended the House of Lords dressed in a black velvet coat embroidered with black and gold and a pair of pink high-heeled shoes. True or false?
I feel like he would totally do that. True.
Correct. Question 4. In his 1828 book, The Art of Tying the Cravat, Monsieur Leblanc describes how many tying and knotting options. A, 20, B, 32, C, 42.
32.
Correct.
Yes.
Question 5. Corsetry was commonly used by males.
True.
True. Very true. So it was commonly used for people who had spinal deformities, whether they were male or female, but also young boys would commonly wear corsets until they were breeched.
Yeah, why not?
So you got 4 out of 5, which is a very good, very solid 80%.
I'm loving this season. I'm doing ever so well.
Well done.
Thank you for joining us today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as we did.
If you like what you heard today, then please do take the time to like, rate, subscribe, and share, as it helps new listeners to find us. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.